Well, why are you a better candidate than any of the other Democrats?
You can't tell just looking. I mean, I thought it'd be pretty obvious. I mean, no. Look, that's going to be for the Democratic voters to decide. But as I go around the country, I've never seen the country as sober as it is now. Everybody knows we've been dug in a pretty deep hole in the last 6 years, maybe longer, both at home and abroad. And I don't think the Democrats are looking for at small bore issues. They know their future. The future of their kids is going to be determined by as much of what happens across the ocean and as much of what happens with regard to energy policy and a major healthcare and education policy. These are big issues. And I think this time they're going to be looking for experience and a track record and someone who knows what they believe and is willing to say it and straightforwardly put out what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. And I think I have, this may be the one race in all of your careers where experience is the single most important thing to be able to bring to the table. We're in a pretty rough world right now. And unless the next Democratic nominee is able to lay out how we're going to restore our place in the world and restore the middle class, I don't think there's any shot of the Democrat winning. And I think my record, my notions of how I go about doing both those things, restoring the middle class, restoring our place in the world, make me the most qualified person in the Senate. No one has had as much experience as I had in either party in American foreign policy. And I'll conclude by saying, unless the next presidential nominee in either party is able to ante up unimpeachable credentials on national security and foreign policy, as well as a clear notion of how he's going to keep the middle class from rolling off the table here, I don't think there's any possibility they can win. I think my record, my background, my experience make me the most qualified person at this moment to be President of the United States of America. But if this becomes an election about everything from social issues relating to gender and to abortion and all those things, which are important issues, then I'm not going to be the candidate. I'm not going to be the candidate. I'm not going to be the nominee. I'm not going to be the next president. But if it's about the future of this country, I ask you a rhetorical question. Do any of you think if tomorrow we solve perfectly the situation in Iraq, things are going to get better in the world? They're clearly worse without solving it. Does anybody think that solves our problems? These are big ticket items. They're looking for grown-ups. They're looking for someone who has a clear notion and a vision of what our place in the world is and a clear understanding of what the priorities are. For me, it's security. Security before everything. And that includes energy security, and that includes an education policy that allows us to be secure and be able to compete. And so for me, the priorities are clear. I'm going to go out and lay them out for folks. They may look at me and say, hey, Joe, not me, man. That's too hard. Well, I'm not sure my candor and my I don't know what you want to characterize that, my speaking like I do was something that the public was ready for 4, 8, 12, 16 years ago. I may be wrong now. They may not be ready for it now. But as I said, I know what I believe, I know what I want to do, and I know why I want to be president. And I'm not about to lose in any terms other than my own.
Senator, how do you respond to some Democratic critics who question your support of the bankruptcy bill? They made it harder for average, like you were talking about, the middle class to file bankruptcy.
I tell them to look at the record. The first 3 times the industry tried to pass a bankruptcy bill, I'm the guy that blocked it. I finally got an agreement from them that there be a fundamental change in the bankruptcy law that did 4 things. Number 1, it had a safe harbor. No one below the median income even qualified to be involved in this. So the idea of poor folks are getting dragged up in this is simply not true. You got to be making more than $47,000 even to get into the game to be covered by the bankruptcy bill. Only 10% of those people declaring bankruptcy covered by it. Number 2, the reason why almost every single social agency in every state in the nation supported the bankruptcy bill and my proposal as it was amended, the amended bankruptcy bill, is because for the first time you can no longer, as a father paying a support payment, declare bankruptcy and suspend your support payments. The women and children come before everyone, including the IRS, in terms of bankruptcy. They are the first among creditors. First time in American history that's the case. The third reason is that you're in a position as well whereby if you don't do something about the flagrant bankruptcies, particularly among people who are getting away, eliminating their student loans, eliminating their credit card debt, your interest rates go up for every one of you who legitimately pay your bills. And so there's an impact upon average consumers, the degree to which you make it harder for you to be able to walk away from obligations. And lastly, what does it do? It says that if you have resources and income left, you should have to pay part of that to your creditors. The last point I'll make is this, that if you take a look at the bankruptcy bill, all of these horror stories they talked about were happening. They haven't happened. They haven't happened. So look at the facts as a result of the bankruptcy bill. The one thing that is a red herring that is people point to that existed before the amendment of the bankruptcy bill, the old bankruptcy bill, and the new one. A lot of people declaring bankruptcy today are declaring bankruptcy middle-class people because of medical bills. That existed before the change and after. And so the question is, if you, in fact, are struck with a catastrophic illness, putting middle-class people in a position, and I'm a guy that had 2 cranial aneurysms, a major embolism. I was hospitalized 20 years ago for 7 months and recovering during that period. I was in ICU for 59 days. They gave me a 30% chance of living, and my bill was almost $1 million. Had I not had my wife's Blue Cross and Blue Shield, or my coverage, we used hers, but she's a school teacher in Delaware, guess what? Even as a successful lawyer, I would have lost everything. That's wrong. But it's not soluble within the bankruptcy bill. It is soluble by the need for a health care policy that provides catastrophic insurance for every single American. So they're never put in a position that they have to lose their entire savings, including their home in many cases. But it's a red herring. It's like saying, that bankruptcy bill, people are declaring bankruptcy because of health care. Well, how do you deal with that? You say you don't have the health care bills and you can't declare bankruptcy? But it is a non sequitur, but it's the most appealing demagogic thing to say about this thing.
What about that plagiarism thing that was
fair question. 20 years ago, this happened. 20 years ago, I made a mistake. 20 years ago, I learned a whole hell of a lot getting up off my knees and reestablishing myself as a serious senator. If you look at the facts, I am not going to debate what I was accused of doing or not doing. Look at the facts. You go back and look at the facts and you find article after article, including newspapers up this way, pointing out I quoted Kinnick many times. You also have the fact that my university's given me every major award that exists since then, pointing out that what I was accused of doing at Syracuse, I never did. But the fact of the matter is I screwed up. I screwed up. I was arrogant, I was lazy, and I was sloppy. And words matter, and it matters how you state them. And I did not deserve, because of my immaturity, to remain in the race.
Thank you.
I screwed up.
How's your health now?
My health is good, knock on wood. Well, I had these, they either fix or they don't. Fortunately, they fix it. Okay?
Thank you, Senator.
Thank